In our human journey, we seek connections like we seek air. It is these connections, in their best form, that nourish us, propel us forward, and mirror to us the beauty of sharing. However, not every bond is an embrace for the soul. Some connections resemble anchors, holding us in murky waters of devaluation, while others, like chains, imprison us in cycles of pain and abuse. Today, I want to invite you to a deep and perhaps transformative reflection, prioritizing self-love as the lighthouse that guides us away from these destructive tides in a true detox from relationships that diminish us. Because loving yourself is not selfishness. It is the fundamental act of recognizing your own worth and integrity. Let's start with relationships that, subtly or openly, drag us down. Those that, instead of adding to our lives, subtract our energy, our joy, our self-confidence. These are bonds where criticism is constant, support is scarce, and the predominant feeling is that of never being good enough. In these dynamics, our potential is systematically pruned, our dreams ridiculed or ignored, and our inner voice silenced. We feel like a plant yearning for sun but living in the shadow of relentless judgment or an indifference that wounds. These relationships may not have the explicit face of violence, but they operate through continuous wear and tear, undermining one's being until one forgets one's own light. But there is an even darker step on this ladder of suffering: abusive relationships. And here, it is crucial to understand why someone remains in such a devastating situation. Behavior analysis offers us some lenses to comprehend this complex and painful dynamic. One of the most powerful is the concept of intermittent reinforcement. Imagine a slot machine. You lose most of the time, but occasionally you win a small prize. This unpredictable reward is extremely effective in maintaining the behavior of continuing to play. In abusive relationships, the abuser often alternates hostile and degrading behaviors with moments of apparent affection, apologies, or promises of change, the so-called honeymoon phase. These sporadic prizes, however rare, fuel the victim's hope and make disengagement incredibly difficult. The momentary relief or crumb of affection become overwhelmingly powerful reinforcers. Another factor is operant conditioning through negative reinforcement. The victim learns that by giving in, by not confronting, by walking on eggshells, they can avoid or postpone an angry outburst or an abusive episode. Thus, submissive behaviors are reinforced not by a positive reward, but by the removal of an aversive stimulus, the abuse. Over time, this can lead to learned helplessness, a state in which the person, after frustrated attempts to change the situation or be heard, comes to believe that nothing they do will have an effect, feeling powerless and resigned to suffering. It is fundamental to put ourselves with empathy and without judgment in the place of those suffering abuse. This person is not weak nor masochistic. They are often immersed in a complex web of emotional manipulation, fear, and a heart-wrenching hope. They cling to the memory of good times, to the idealized image of the partner, to the belief that she will change, this will pass. We will finally be happy. It's a wait for a dawn that, painfully, insists on not arriving. The victim has invested dreams, time, emotions, and the idea of breaking up can seem like an unbearable personal failure, in addition to the real fear of the consequences of such a rupture. As American author Robin Norwood said in Women Who Love Too Much, when our relationship does not match our dreams of happiness, we often love even more, hoping that our love will somehow magically transform our partner into the person we want him to be. This dynamic is perfectly illustrated by the psychological concept of the cycle of violence, described by psychologist Dr. Lenore E. Walker. Those suffering abuse, often without realizing it, are trapped in this vicious cycle, which usually manifests in 3 phases. Tension-building phase. Minor incidents begin to occur. Communication deteriorates. The abuser becomes more irritable, critical, and controlling. The victim feels the tension in the air and tries to calm the abuser, often blaming themselves. Acute explosion, incident phase. The accumulated tension explodes into verbal, emotional, psychological, physical, and/or sexual violence. It is the peak of the abuse, a moment of great danger and trauma. Honeymoon phase, or reconciliation. The abuser, after the explosion, may show remorse, apologize, promise to change, be affectionate and attentive. They might blame external factors or even the victim, minimizing the abuse. It is in this phase that the victim feels relieved, rekindles hope, and may be convinced to remain in the relationship. And the cycle restarts, usually with the tension and explosion phases becoming more frequent and intense, and the honeymoon phase shorter or non-existent. The victim remains trapped by the hope generated by the honeymoon phase, always believing that this time will be different. We are touching on deep wounds, I know, but awareness is the first step towards healing and liberation. If this content is making sense to you, if it's bringing you some light, I kindly ask you to leave your like, subscribe to the channel. Your support is fundamental so we can continue producing materials like this, which seek to strengthen and inform, and so that this message of hope and transformation can reach those who need it most. Share and help the channel grow. Continuing. Faced with this scenario, how can one find the way out? The compass, the true north, invariably lies in prioritizing self-love. And what is self-love? It is not arrogance nor narcissism. It is profound respect for oneself, a recognition of your intrinsic dignity, a commitment to your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. It is the courage to say enough to what hurts you and, yes, to what nourishes you. The renowned American researcher Brené Brown teaches us about the importance of vulnerability and self-acceptance, stating, "You are imperfect, you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging." Internalizing this truth is revolutionary. The Irish poet and playwright Oscar Wilde, with his characteristic astuteness, declared, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance." And what a romance! One that teaches us to be our primary ally, our safe harbor. The great writer and activist Maya Angelou, with her ancestral wisdom, advised us, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." This advice is a powerful shield against the denial that keeps us bound to empty promises of change. Freeing oneself from negative and/or abusive relationships is a process, a journey that requires courage, support, and specific tools. I would like to propose 2 fundamental therapeutic strategies in this emotional detox: developing radical self-acceptance and establishing firm boundaries. This begins by unconditionally accepting that you deserve to be treated with respect, love, and consideration. It doesn't matter what you were told or made to believe in the past. Your dignity is non-negotiable. From this self-acceptance, the next step is to learn to identify, communicate, and crucially, uphold healthy personal boundaries. Boundaries are the rules you establish about how others can and cannot treat you. Saying no to what violates your boundaries is not being selfish. It is being self-responsible. This may involve grieving the relationship you idealized, but that never truly existed. It's allowing yourself to feel the pain of loss to make space for healing. Seeking therapy is a powerful step here, as a professional can help validate your experiences, rebuild your self-esteem, and develop assertiveness skills. Building a solid support system and reclaiming your own identity. Isolation is one of the abuser's most powerful weapons and one of the most painful consequences of negative relationships. Therefore, it is vital to reconnect or build a reliable support network. This includes friends, family members who genuinely care, support groups, and, as mentioned, mental health professionals. Sharing your story in a safe environment can be incredibly validating and empowering. In parallel, reclaiming your individual identity is essential. Toxic relationships often force us to abandon hobbies, interests, friendships, and even parts of ourselves to appease the other person or to survive the dynamic. Ask yourself, who was I before this relationship? What brought me joy? What dreams did I shelve? Resuming these activities, rediscovering passions, reconnecting with your essence, is an act of loving rebellion against the annulment you suffered. It's rebuilding yourself brick by brick. And here we arrive at the crucial point that connects everything, the fear of loneliness. Often, the fear of being alone is what keeps people chained to destructive relationships. But this loneliness needs to be reframed, not as a void to be feared, but as a sacred space for reconnecting with yourself, for healing, for strengthening your individuality. It is only possible for an individual to truly find themselves, to flourish in their own individuality when they allow themselves to be with themselves without the distorted noise of a relationship that diminishes them. Being alone in this context is not a punishment, but a golden opportunity to listen to yourself, to validate yourself, to rebuild your self-esteem on solid foundations of self-love. It is in this chosen silence that you can finally hear your own voice, clear and powerful. Remember, you were not born to be a supporting character in a story of suffering. You were born to be the protagonist of your own journey of love, respect, and happiness. The decision to begin this emotional detox is yours, and the path, though challenging, leads to an indescribable freedom. You deserve a love that expands you, that celebrates you, that propels you to be the fullest version of yourself. And that love invariably begins within you. Cultivate it, protect it, prioritize it. Your life will thank you. We have reached the end of our conversation, which I hope has been a beacon of hope and strength. If you like this video, if it resonated with your soul and brought you valuable insights, I earnestly ask you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel. Your engagement allows us to continue sowing words of support and transformation, reaching more and more people who need this message. Share it with those who might benefit. Immense gratitude for your presence and courage.